Hey guys!
Welcome to our channel!
So for today's video,
We're going to study about debt restructuring.
so ano nga ba yung debt restructuring?
Ano nga ba? Yan ang magiging topic natin ngayon. It is a situation where the creditor, for economic or legal reasons related to the debtor's financial difficulties, grants to the debtor concession that would not otherwise be granted in a normal business relationship. So yun, nakita niyo naman sa nag-flash screen kanina na nangyayari ang debt restructuring dahil yung borrowing entity ay nagkakaroon ng financial difficulties or cash flow problem, kaya naman hindi niya mabayaran yung pinagkakautangan niya na entity.
So paano nga ba nangyayari yung debt restructuring? First, may agreement tayo ng debtor and creditor, and second, inimpose siya ng law or court. Ang objective ng creditor sa debt restructuring is to maximize the recovery of the investment and make the best of a bad situation.
So, sa debt restructuring, yung creditor yung usually na nagsasuffer na accounting loss, habang yung debtor naman yung kadalasan na nagre-realize ng accounting gain. Siyempre, bilang creditor, nag-compromise ka na lang kahit magkakaroon ka ng loss para kahit papaano makatanggap ka pa rin ng amount kaysa naman wala, di ba? Tapos, bilang debtor naman, ayun, wala ka nang mabibigay, kailangan pa magsakripisyo na ibang bagay. So, may 3 types ng debt restructuring. Una, asset swap. Pangalawa, equity swap. At pangatlo, modification of terms.
Asset swap is a transfer by the debtor to the creditor of any asset, such as receivables, inventory, real estate, and investment in full payment of an obligation. Under PFRS 9, paragraph 3.3.1, tinitreat natin yung asset swap as a recognition of financial liability or extinguishment of an obligation. Under paragraph 3.3.3 ng PFRS 9, yung difference daw ng carrying amount ng financial liability natin and the consideration given shall be recognized in profit or loss or income statement. Yung total liability natin, which arises from the payables or any interest na na-accrue natin, and ilaless natin doon yung carrying amount ng asset para makuha natin yung gain on extinguishment of debt.
Illustration. An entity provided the following balances at year-end. Note payable, 2 million. Accrued interest payable, 400,000. At year-end, the entity transferred to the creditor land with carrying amount of 1.5 million and fair value of 2.2 million.
So, sabi sa illustration, yung entity daw or yung debtor, meron siyang note payable na 2 million and accrued interest payable na 400,000, kaya nagkaroon siya ng total liability na 2.4 million kay creditor. At year-end daw, nag-transfer siya ng land with carrying amount na 1.5 million and fair value na 2.2 million. Since sabi sa standard ng IFRS, ang papansinin lang natin is yung carrying amount ng asset, which is 1.5 million. So, kapag pinag-minus natin yung total liability na 2.4 million and yung carrying amount na land, which is 1.5 million, magkakaroon ng 900,000 na gain sa part ni debtor dahil mas maliit yung transfer niyang asset kaysa doon sa utang niya kay creditor. Para sa journal entry ng transaction na to, de-debit natin yung liability na na-extinguish ni debtor, which is note payable for 2 million and accrued interest payable for 400,000. I-credit naman natin yung na-transfer na asset, which is yung land, at carrying amount, which is 1.5 million, and yung gain on extinguishment of debt na na-compute natin kanina for 900,000. Under naman ng USA GAAP, nagre-record tayo as if 2 transactions have taken place, namely, first, sale of an asset, and second, extinguishment of liability. Accordingly, 2 gains or losses ang i-recognize natin. Para makuha natin yung gain or loss in exchange, yung fair value ng asset na transfer ni debtor dun sa creditor, less natin dun yung carrying amount ng asset para makuha natin yung gain or loss on exchange. Tapos, para makuha naman natin yung gain or loss on debt restructuring, yung total liability natin or ni debtor, less natin dun yung fair value ng na-transfer na asset, which results in gain or loss on debt restructuring.
Illustration. An entity provided the following balances at year-end. Note payable, 2 million. Accrued interest payable, 400,000. At year-end, the entity transferred to the creditor land with carrying amount of 1.5 million and fair value of 2.2 million.
So, same illustration tayo pero under naman ng USA GAAP. Sa USA GAAP, nagre-record tayo as if two transactions have taken place. First, kukumputin natin yung gain or loss in exchange. Para makuha yun, kukunin natin yung difference ng fair value ng asset and yung carrying amount ng asset for 2.2 million less 1.5 million para makuha natin yung gain on exchange ng 700,000. So, ang second natin kukumputin is yung gain or loss in debt restructuring. Same lang siya sa procedure ng IFRS, which is kukumputin natin yung total liability for 2.4 million, pero this time, ang ilaless natin sa kanya is yung fair value ng asset or land for 2.2 million and yung difference niya is 200,000. Dahil under siya ng USA GAAP, ang gagamitin natin term is yung gain on debt restructuring rather than gain on extinguishment of debt. Para naman sa journal entry ng USA GAAP, i-debit natin yung liability na na-extinguish which is yung note payable na 2 million and accrued interest payable na 400,000. And i-credit naman natin yung na-transfer na asset ni debtor which is yung land at carrying amount na 1.5 million. Pero this time, dahil two transactions have taken place dito sa USA GAAP, re-record natin yung gain on exchange na nakompute natin kanina na 700,000 sa credit and gain on debt restructuring na 200,000 sa credit din. DACION and PAGO arises when a mortgage property is offered by the debtor in full settlement of the debt. Itong transaction na to shall be accounted for as an asset swap form of debt restructuring. Nire-require dito yung recognition ng gain or loss based dun sa balance ng obligation ni debtor, including yung mga accrued interest and other charges na for example, yung mga legal fees or bank service charges.
Illustration. Land costing 500,000 and building costing 4 million with accumulated depreciation of 800,000 were mortgaged to secure a bank loan of 3 million. Face amount of loan 3 million. Accrued interest payable 200,000. Legal fee and bank service charges 50,000. Subsequently, the land and building were given to the bank in full payment of the liability.
So, sabi naman dito sa illustration ng DACION and PAGO accounting, kukumputin natin yung gain or loss and extinguishment of debt. And para makuha yon, same lang siya ng procedure sa IFRS na kukunin natin yung total liability ni debtor kay creditor, which comprise of face amount of loan payable for 3 million, accrued interest payable for 200,000, and legal fee and bank service charges for 50,000. And ang total nun is 3,250,000. Ilales naman natin doon yung carrying amount ng mga asset na tinransfer ni debtor. Land for 500,000 and 3.2 million for building na nakuha by subtracting the cost of the building for 4 million less the depreciation for 800,000, and in total nun is 3.7 million. Since mas malaki yung transfer na asset ni debtor kay creditor kaysa sa liability niya, magkakaroon siya ng loss on extinguishment of debt for 450,000. So, para naman sa journal entry na DACION and PAGO accounting, i-debit natin lahat ng liability ni debtor na na-extinguish, which is yung mortgage payable for 3 million, accrued interest payable for 200,000, and bank service charges for 50,000. I-debit din natin yung na-compute natin kaninang loss on extinguishment of debt for 450,000 and yung accumulated depreciation ng building for 800,000. I-credit naman natin yung mga na-transfer na asset which is yung land for 500,000 and building at cost for 4 million. Equity swap is a transaction whereby a debtor and creditor can renegotiate the terms of financial liability with the result that the liability is fully or partially extinguished by the debtor issuing equity instruments to the creditor. Simply stated, yung equity swap is the issuance ng share capital ni debtor kay creditor in full or partial payment ng obligation niya. Sabi ng IFRS 19, kapag daw yung equity instruments issued to extinguish all or part of a financial liability are recognized initially, yung entity or yung debtor shall measure the equity instruments at the fair value of the equity instruments issued, which is the first order of priority, unless hindi ma-measure yung fair value na yun. Equity instruments issued to extinguish a financial liability shall be measured at the following amounts in the order of priority. First, fair value of equity instrument issued. Second, fair value of liability extinguished. And last, carrying amount of liability extinguished.
Ngayon, sa pag-journal entry natin sa equity swap, bukod sa financial liability na i-extinguish at ng equity na i-issue kapalit ng extinguishment na yon, nagre-recognize din tayo ng share premium at ng gain or loss on extinguishment of debt. So, paano nga ba natin yan kinocompute? Sa order of priority na binanggit kanina, nire-recognize natin initially yung equity instrument na i-issue sa fair value muna niya. So, ganito computein yung share premium at yung gain or loss. Yan. Fair value of equity instrument na in-issue less par value of equity instrument is equal to share premium. Tapos sa gain or loss naman, carrying amount of liability na i-extinguish natin less fair value of equity instrument na i-issue is equal to gain or loss on extinguishment of debt. Kaya nga ng sinabi kanina, if the fair value of equity instrument cannot be reliably measured, gagamitin natin ay yung second order of priority, which is the fair value of liability extinguished. To. Kapareho pa din naman siya nung kanina. Same formula pa din naman siya lahat. Kung mapapansin nyo, nilagyan ko ng asterisk yan kanina pa kasi yun lang yung mababago sa formula natin. So, share premium is equal to fair value of liability extinguished less par value of equity instrument issued. Tapos sa gain or loss naman, carrying amount of liability extinguished less fair value of liability extinguished is equal to gain or loss on extinguishment of debt. Ito siya. And lastly, kapag hindi nabanggit yung dalawa, ang gagamitin na natin ay yung carrying amount of liability extinguished. So, ganito siya. Carrying amount of liability extinguished less par value of equity instrument issued is equal to share premium. Tapos, teka, parang may mali. Carrying amount less carrying amount. Zero na yun, diba? Ibisa lang ibig sabihin yan. Common sense, hindi na tayo magre-recognize ng gain. Yan. So, share premium na lang yung i-recognize natin kapag carrying amount na yung gamit.
Illustration. An entity showed the following data at year-end. Bonds payable, 5 million. Accrued interest payable, 500,000. The entity issued share capital with a total par value of 2 million and fair value of 4.5 million in full settlement of the bonds payable and accrued interest. On the other hand, the fair value of the bonds payable is 4.7 million.
If fair value of shares issued is used, ganito yung magiging computation natin. Fair value of shares issued na 4.5 million less par value of shares issued na 2 million will result in share premium of 2.5 million. Pagkatapos, yung carrying amount of liability natin consisting of 5 million na bonds payable at 500,000 na accrued interest for a total of 5.5 million less sa fair value of shares issued na 4.5 million will result sa gain on extinguishment of debt na 1 million. So bakit siya gain? Dahil mas maliit yung fair value of shares issued kaysa dun sa carrying amount ng liability na inextinguished. Sa pag-journal entry, gamit ang fair value of equity instrument o yung shares issued, ide-debit natin yung bonds payable na 5 million at accrued interest na 500,000 dahil nga ine-extinguish na natin siya. Pagkatapos, magka-credit tayo ng share capital na 2 million, share premium na 2.5 million, at gain on extinguishment of debt na 1 million. Pangalawa naman, if fair value of bonds payable is used, ganito yung gagawin natin. Papalitan lang natin ng fair value of bonds payable yung may mga asterisk. So, fair value of bonds payable na 4.7 million less par value of shares issued na 2 million will result in share premium of 2.7 million. Tapos, carrying amount of bonds payable na 5.5 million less fair value of bonds payable na 4.7 million will result sa gain on extinguishment of debt na 800,000. Sa journal entry naman ng fair value of bonds payable, ganun pa din naman yung mga amount niya na bago lang sa share premium na naging 2.7 million tapos sa gain on extinguishment of debt na naging 800,000. Lastly, ganito naman kapag carrying amount of bonds payable na yung ginamit. Carrying amount of bonds payable na 5.5 million less par value of shares issued na 2 million will result in share premium of 3.5 million. At gaya nga ng sinabi ko kanina, hindi na tayo magre-recognize ng gain or loss on extinguishment. Sa journal entry naman, gamit ang carrying amount of bonds payable, wala na tayong i-recognize na gain or loss sa extinguishment of debt, tapos yung share premium natin ay magiging 3.5 million na. Ngayon, dumako naman tayo sa pangatlong type ng debt restructuring, which is the modification of terms. From the word itself, modification, ibig sabihin change or may babago sa term. For example, sa interest natin, pwede magkaroon ng reduction ng interest rate or forgiveness of unpaid interest. Tapos sa maturity value naman, pwede ma-extend yung maturity date o kaya naman magkaroon ng reduction sa principal amount na babayaran. According to PFRS 9, paragraph 3.3.2, pag merong substantial modification of terms, mag-a-account ka ng extinguishment sa old financial liability and recognition sa new financial liability. Under Application Guidance, B3.3.6 of PFRS 9, masasabing may substantial modification of terms kapag yung makukumpit na gain or loss on extinguishment is at least 10% of old financial liability. However, according to PFRS 9, paragraph B5.4.6, kapag less than 10% of old financial liability yung nakumpute natin na gain or loss, ibig sabihin, walang substantial modification at hindi ito extinguishment of debt. Kaya naman, i-recognize natin to as gain or loss on modification rather than extinguishment. So, yung gain or loss sa extinguishment of debt ay makakompute natin pag pinag-minus yung carrying amount of old liability sa present value ng new or restructured na liability. Tapos, sa pag-compute natin ng present value ng new liability, ang gagamitin pa din natin ay yung old effective rate.
Illustration. On January 1, 2020, an entity showed the following. Note payable due on January 1, 2020 with effective interest rate of 14% amounting to 5 million. Accrued interest payable amounting to 1 million. The entity is granted by the creditor the following concessions on January 1, 2020. The accrued interest of 1 million is forgiven. The principal obligation is reduced to 4 million. The new interest rate is 10% payable every December 31. The new date of maturity is December 31, 2023.
Una nating kukumputin ay yung present value of new note payable. Sa pag-compute, ang gagamitin daw natin ay yung old effective rate. So sa illustration, ang binigay na old effective rate ay yung 14%. Tapos, kaya naman 4 periods yung gagamitin natin kasi from 2020, na-extend yung maturity date natin hanggang 2023. So yung present value of 1 at 14% for 4 periods is 0.5921 at yung present value of ordinary annuity of 1 natin, 14% for 4 periods is 2.9137. So ito, na-compute natin yan, pwede dun sa may calculator o kaya naman may titingnan na lang tayo na table. Sa pag-compute ng present value of principal, gagamitin natin ay yung ni-reduce amount na 4 million, multiply natin sa present value of 1 na yan, which will result in the amount of 2,368,400. Present value of interest payment natin na 4 million times 10% na new interest rate times present value of ordinary annuity of 1. Ayan. Tapos yung magiging sagot niya ay 1,165,480 for a total of 3,533,880 na present value of new note payable natin. Tapos, ililes yung face value of new note payable na 4 million, kaya nakuha yung discount na 466,120. Kaya siya naging discount kasi mas maliit yung nakuha natin na present value kaysa dun sa face value of new note payable natin. Tapos ito naman, yung total liability natin na 6 million ay na-compute by adding yung old note payable natin na 5 million at saka yung accrued interest payable natin na 1 million. So, ayan, itong 6 million na to, ma-minus sa present value of new note payable natin na ito, dito nakuha, magre-result sa gain na 2,466,120. I-account natin siya as gain on extinguishment of debt since mas malaki sa 10% ng old financial liability yung na-compute natin na gain. Therefore, meron siyang substantial modification. Ito yung magre-reflect sa book ni debtor. So, ayan, may tatlong journal entries tayo na ire-record. First, yung extinguishment of old note payable. Second, yung interest payment on new note payable. At yung third, yung amortization na mamaya na lang dahil hindi na siya kasya dito. So, balik tayo. Didebit natin yung old note payable na 5 million at yung accrued interest payable na 1 million since i-extinguish na natin siya. Debit din tayo ng discount on note payable na 466,120. Credit natin yung new note payable na 4 million at yung gain on extinguishment of debt na 2,466,120. Sa interest payment naman, debit natin yung interest expense, credit cash na 400,000 na na-compute natin by 4 million times 10%. Kung saan, itong 4 million yung new principal amount natin or yung new note payable tapos yung 10% yung interest rate natin. Ito na yung pangatlo kung saan i-amortize yung discount on note payable. So, debit, interest expense, tapos credit, discount on note payable na 94,743. Kaya siya na-compute yung carrying amount na 3,533,880 which is yung present value of new note payable, minultiply siya sa 14% yung effective interest. Tapos, ang sagot, 494,743. Tapos, itong 400,000, na-compute siya dahil minultiply yung face value of new note payable na 4 million sa 10%. Ito yung new interest rate natin. Tapos, pag pinag-minus yan, meron tayong discount amortization na 94,743 na ayun nga. Record lang naman natin yung for 2020. Tapos, and so on. Ito naman yung magre-reflect sa book ni creditor. Ayun, binaliktad lang yung note payable sa part ni debtor, note receivable kay creditor. Yung gain ni debtor, loss kay creditor. Tapos, yung discount on note payable ni debtor and earned interest income naman kay creditor. Tapos yun, puro mga binaliktad lang naman siya.
Illustration. Note payable due on January 1, 2020 with effective interest rate of 10% amounting to 5 million. Accrued interest payable amounting to 1 million. The entity is granted by the creditor the following concessions. The accrued interest of 1 million is forgiven. The interest rate of 14% payable every December 31. The date of maturity is December 31, 2022. So, yun nga, gaya uli kanina, una natin kukumputin ay yung present value of new note payable. So, ang binigay doon sa given na owed effective interest rate ay 10%. Tapos, kaya naman 3 periods kasi from 2020, na-extend yung maturity date natin hanggang 2022. So, present value at 10% for 3 periods is 0.7513. Tapos, present value of ordinary annuity of 1 at 10% for 3 periods is 2.4869. Tapos, kung mapapansin nyo, walang binigay sa illustration with regards sa maturity value. So, sa pag-compute ng present value of principal, ang gagamitin pa rin natin ay yung owed note payable na 5 million. Multiply natin sa present value of 1 na ayan, na may sagot na 3,756,500. Tapos, present value of interest payment natin, 5 million times new interest rate na 14% times present value of ordinary annuity of 1 na ito, which results in 1,740,830 for a total of present value of new note payable natin na 5,497,330. Ima-minus naman natin ngayon yung face amount of new note payable na 5 million, kaya magre-result siya sa premium na 497,330. So, kaya siya naging premium kasi this time, mas malaki na yung present value kaysa sa face amount ng note payable natin. And then, yung carrying amount o yung total ng owed liability natin na galing sa owed note payable na 5 million at accrued interest payable na 1 million, may total na 6 million. Ililes naman natin dun yung present value of new note payable natin na ayan, para makompute yung gain natin na 502,670. So, kung mapapansin nyo, yung term na ginamit natin dito ay gain on modification. Kasi, yung gain na nakompute natin ay less than 10% ng owed liability natin na 6 million. Meaning, there's no substantial modification of terms. For journal entries, record natin yung modified liability. So, debit accrued interest payable na 1 million, tapos credit tayo ng premium o note payable na 497,330 at yung gain on modification of terms na 502,670. Tapos, for annual interest payment for 2020 or yung for the current year, debit tayo ng interest expense and credit cash for 700,000 na nakompute natin by multiplying yung face amount na 5 million sa 14% na new interest rate. Yung pangatlong journal entry na i-record natin ay yung pag-amortize ng premium on note payable. So, para makompute natin yung amount, yung present value of new note payable na 5,497,330, multiply natin sa effective interest rate na 10%, which will result in the amount of 549,733. Minus natin siya sa 700,000 na nakompute natin kanina. Tapos yung difference nila
ay yung premium amortization na 150,267. So, sa pag-entry natin, debit, premium on note payable, credit, interest expense na 150,267.
So ito na ang kulay, dulo at bukas ng aming video. Dahil lahat naman ng bagay may hangganan, di ba?
Salamat sa pakikinig niyo sa simpleng tutorial namin at sana may natutunan kayo at mabaon niyo yung mga nalalaman niyo para sa mga susunod na yugto pa ng buhay niyo.